Shit We've Read is a proud member of Bilo Network, a network of geeky podcasts.
Please visit shitwe'veread.com to support the show.
Now let's talk about some books.
Hello and welcome back to Shit We've Read, a fantasy and sci-fi podcast hosted by some geeky friends. I am the host today, Bella Romero, as some of you might recognize my voice, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jason Rico, use his full name. Hey Rico, how are you doing?
Actually, you had it right. It's just Rico. It's like Shakira, Madonna, Cher. It's just Rico.
I mean, that's how iconic you are in the book world, obviously.
Thank you for organizing that. I'm doing well. I'm actually really excited to talk about this book. I have some thoughts.
Ooh, okay, that's exciting.
That could mean anything, though.
Way to start off hot. Okay.
You know, sometimes I come to these discussions, nothing in my head. You know, just a tumbleweed blowing through. I'm sure people who've listened, they know that. Today, I'm bringing the thoughts.
Wow, the thoughts from the thought.
Wow,
Laura.
Thank you for making that joke.
Was it in your head too?
Yeah, I couldn't quite find how to connect the two. And you did it. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. That's why you're hosting today.
I also came in prepared, even though I forgot. I volunteered y'all to host, and I still forgot that I was hosting. Rico was telling me what to do, and I was like, what the fuck? Get off me, bro. I was like, I'm tired. And I was like, oh shit, I'm hosting. So 3 cups of tea later, here I am. Mm-hmm. It's all good. Laura, how are you doing? Are you ready? Are you coming in hot?
I am ready.
Oh, we're all hot and ready.
I think this is the closest I ever finished a book to recording. I finished it with an hour to spare.
Me too.
I was like, oh God, I gotta get this done.
Let the record show. I finished with 3 hours to spare.
Okay, overachiever.
I honestly would have finished it last night, but then I've been watching Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix, which this is a shameless plug for everybody to go watch that. It's so good. But yeah, I got distracted by the show. So I had like 25 minutes left in the book that I read at 3:00 and finished at 3:30. So I was like,
nice. Yeah, I debated finishing last night. I think I had 5 chapters to go. I was like, I could finish tonight, but I'm kind of getting sleepy. I could do that tomorrow during the day. Work should be fine. What a fool I was, because work today was a fucking nightmare.
We did not talk about before the episode. We will be talking about that afterwards.
It was like 4:30. I'm like, I need to blow through these chapters. I need to get through this.
4:30, damn.
Yeah, and so I got them done in like an hour. So yeah, I finished with time to spare. But anyhow.
You know what? C's get degrees. That's all I'll say. So maybe we should mention what we're actually reading that we're also fired up about. So we read The Undetectables by Courtney Smyth, they, them. It was published in 2023, almost a year ago. It was September 2023. And they do have an upcoming sequel for this book. So obviously enough people had enough thoughts. We're getting a second one already. So this is kind of exciting, which is out. The sequel is out September 24th. And yeah, this is going to be cool. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Who should, oh, well, okay. First, tell me what else you guys were reading. Maybe that distracted you from reading this until an hour before. You guys have been reading a lot. I feel like
we have been cramming a lot of books.
Some books to read. So, Laura, what have you been reading?
I have also been reading Key Lime Sky by Al Hess. Thank you to Angry Robot for sending us an advanced reader copy. It's a queer sci-fi mystery. To keep it short, an alien invasion hits the town of Muddy Gap, but a disgruntled pie aficionado is the only one who seems to remember it. I am really enjoying it so far. It's kind of really weird, but I really like it. I like the characters and just the small town feel of the book. But I am also excited to share that we had the opportunity to interview Al, the author, and we're excited to share it with everyone. So check out our Instagram for a preview, and you can read the full conversation on our website, shitwe'veread.com.
Awesome. And Rico, you read that with Laura.
Yes, I am also in the middle of reading it. I am further behind than Laura. I, unfortunately, am in a bit of a reading slump. This is like the first reading slump I've had in years since I got back into reading hardcore, like in 2019. And it's entirely the fault of the 2024 Summer Olympics. I read nothing during those 2 weeks. I was glued to the TV. I watched every event I possibly could. I don't care. I don't care about USA winning. I just wanted to watch every event, like everything: fencing, gymnastics, of course, the course swimming, track and field, table tennis, archery, air rifle, breakdancing. Shout out to Raygun. Everybody knows who that is, right? Raygun. She blew up.
Yeah.
The meme. Anyhow, what a time to be alive.
Interesting shout out.
what a time to be alive. She's getting so much hate. I wanted to give Raygun some love.
I agree.
For doing her thing. I don't know what her thing was, but she was doing it. And yeah, so yeah, I haven't really been reading a whole lot. And even though the Olympics have been over for like 2 weeks now.
You're still catching up.
Yes, he is still.
I'm still trying to catch up.
Schedule.
Yeah.
So he's not delayed.
My schedule is taking a hit.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't in our Discord, Rico let us know that he's booking out until 2026 right now, guys. So if you have book recommendations, it's going to be a while till you hear from Rico.
Yeah.
Possibly longer now, especially because the Paralympics start August 28th. So you can get more Olympics.
I know. And trust, I'm planning on watching those as well. So
yeah.
We'll see what I actually read in the next couple months. Anyhow, yes, so I am further behind than Laura in Key Lime Sky, but I'm enjoying it. I was really excited for this book because I read Al's previous book, World Running Down, last year. Angry Robot Books also sent us an arc for that, and I really, really enjoyed that book. So I was looking forward to this one, and so far I'm enjoying it. And yeah, I'm really, really happy to be sharing this interview with Al with you all. So make sure you check it out, like Laura said. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, what about you, Bella? What have you been reading lately?
Yeah, so definitely have not been reading our books. I took a little break in July, so I didn't read Key Lime Sky or the previous episode, which was The Psychology of Time Travel. But I think I will be adding that to my list. Not sure about Key Lime Sky. I want to hear your guys' review, but The Psychology of Time Travel does look good. But I finally finished all of the most recent like Percy Jackson and Friends books. So not the Scottish ones, not the thank you, not the Egyptian ones. I was like, I read, how many books are there? I think there's like 18 Percy Jackson books.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, so we're talking Olympians, Heroes of Olympus, Trials of Apollo,
and The Sun and the Star.
Oh, the kind of one-shotty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one was really cute. I actually really liked that.
Nice.
Just because Nico and Will are adorable. Yeah. For those of you who know the book. So Wrath of the Triple Goddess comes out on September 23rd. So right after our sequel for the book we're reading right now. So September is going to be a really busy book month. So I'm trying to take it easy with just some like light reading. So I actually read The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics. So for those of you who know, I'm a big historical romance fan. Love gay romance, and this had both, and it was great. 10 out of 10. Bridgerton wishes it was that spicy, gay, and relatively historically accurate. Suck it, Bridgerton. So if you are a Bridgerton fan, spoiler alert for season 3, plug your ears, la 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 la, and you loved the sapphic teaser that we got at the end of this season and the bisexual brother plotline, Benedict, you're going to love this book. It is a little bit of science, which I know, shocker, I enjoyed. But it's because it was astronomy in the 19th century. So it was very much like, ooh, Saturn has rings. And I was like, we know that now. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so you are science up until like second grade science.
Up until like you start getting into like theoretical physics and you lose me.
Okay.
So love astronomy, very cool. So this was like the development of that. It's somewhat like the historical accuracy is loose, but it's there. So you have like these women in science who are hiding behind pseudonyms, and like it's a big deal when people find out they're women, and this is very cool, and it's very gay. Yeah, highly recommend. And then I started reading a new book that came out. Again, Sapphic Bridgerton. Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. Just started it. It's really cute. It's kind of like matchmaking. So if you like the Violet Bridgerton or like storyline with her new love interest, and if you liked Queen Charlotte, this might be more up your alley. It's kind of like there's two stories going on. It's like them setting up their parents and they're falling in love at the same time. It's definitely more PG. So The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics could be an After Dark episode.
Oh.
Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. No. It's very like it could be a Lifetime movie. It'd be okay.
Wow.
Okay.
But it's really cute. I really like it. But this is why I hate book talk, because they're like, oh, spicy romance. I'm like, do you know what spice? Oh, so pepper is a spice to you. Got it. Salt is spicy. Got it. Okay. That's what this is.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
book talk. So, and then actually, I feel like I'm on like a little bit of like a astrology kick because my friend self-published like a little astrology, not a novella, but like almost like a long zine, like it's 90 pages. Navigating the Stars: A Journey into Astrology by Ashley Johnson. She's Ash to me. So I'm excited. I've been reading that too. So I started dipping my toes into astrology because it's fun. I like stars. So it's light. It's science light.
Well, I can't wait for you to do our star charts later.
Oh my God. I get so confused, but sure. I'll try.
Same.
I'll try.
Same.
I'll try.
Like back in my day, there was only one, and now there's three I gotta learn. Ugh.
I know. That's how I feel. I'm like, God damn it. What does this all mean? All I know is I'm a triple Sagittarius? ? At least a double Sag. I don't remember what the third one is.
I don't know what that means.
It basically means like I'm very Sagittarius,
Super Sag.
which is a fire sign, which I don't think will, if anyone knows anything about astrology, apparently is very correct for me. Although there are some things people are like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. So anyways, so back to the Undetectables. I'm excited to talk about this book. It's queer. It's a paranormal urban fantasy mystery. It was published last year, like I mentioned. The only content warning I really have for y'all that I feel like wasn't mentioned, and I'm curious if you guys agree, is like the intimate partner manipulation, like emotional abuse of one of the main characters with her.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it.
Only because I'm like, it could be slightly triggering for people.
Yeah.
But I say this is very light.
It was very
warning.
minor, not a big part.
Very minor. It's not a big part of the book. It's a very like short piece of the plot. But for people who are like, get your head out of your ass, he's an asshole. This is that moment. Like there's going to be that moment. But yeah, so just like a light trigger warning for folks. So who am I gonna pick on for this synopsis? I think I'm going to make Laura do it. I feel like Laura doesn't do it enough. I feel like I pick on Rico.
I agree.
I figured it was going to be me.
I feel like I pick on Rico a lot. And it's gay, so I'm like, okay.
Well, and also last episode, I was just getting over being sick, so Jason was being nice and not making me read it that time.
That's true. That was very nice of me.
Wow. Sometimes he's nice. He has a soft side.
Okay. Synopsis. Be gay, solve crime, take naps. A magical serial killer is stalking the occult town of Racton. Hypnotic whistling causes victims to chew their own tongues off, leading to the killer being dubbed the Whistler. Original, right? But outside the lack of taste buds and the strange magical carvings on the victims' torsos, the murderer leaves no evidence, no obvious clues, no reason. Or so it seems. Enter the Undetectables, a detective agency run by 3 witches and a ghost in a cat costume. Don't ask. They are hired to investigate the murders, but with their only case so far left unsolved, will they be up to the task? Mallory, the forensic science expert, is struggling with pain and fatigue from her recently diagnosed fibromyalgia. Cornelia, the team member most likely to go rogue and punch a police officer, is suddenly stirring all sorts of feelings in Mallory. Diana, the social butterfly of the group, is hitting up all of her ex-girlfriends for information. And not forgetting ghostly Theodore, deceased, dramatic, and also the agency's first dead body and unsolved murder case. With bodies stacking up and the case leading them to mysteries at the very heart of magical society, can the Undetectables find the Whistler before they become the killer's next victims?
Okay, well, thank you for that, Laura. Thank you for reading that and being our first victim of the night.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to keep it on theme.
Okay.
So
appreciate it.
I'm gonna call my first witness, Rico.
Oh, okay.
What did you think about this book?
Okay, so overall, I'm gonna say I enjoyed it, but I reserve the right to change my mind upon sleeping on that.
I would just finish the book.
I did, yeah, and so I feel like probably like a lot of readers out there, like when you just finish a book, your feelings for it are one thing, and then as time goes on, they change. Maybe if you had time to digest it and sit with it a little bit. Also, as what happens on our discussions here, by the time this episode's done, I'll probably feel very differently about this based on what you two say. But as of right now,
that does happen.
So right now, I'm going to say I did enjoy it. I will say the characters and their relationships were by far the star of the book for me.
Agreed.
The mystery was incredibly disappointing.
Yep.
The villain was super lackluster and predictable. For me, some of the appeal of a mystery is at the end of it, when we get the solution, I'm like, oh, it was all there and I just didn't see it. And I kind of feel dumb, but in a good way. Like, that's what I want. This book's explanation was stupid and made no sense and dumb. And I just was like, okay, I almost preferred if you didn't explain it. You know, you should have just quit while you're ahead.
I think I know what you're talking about. And I'm really excited to get
into
it more.
We'll get into it more.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said, especially the relationship part. I think that was my favorite part. That's why I want to read the next book, is to find out some of the relationships that are alluded to. And we'll talk about that in the spoiler section, what happens. Laura, what is your thoughts, non-spoiler first impressions?
So overall, I would say I did enjoy it. It definitely has its flaws. I kind of had a hard time grasping the passage of time sometimes. And so I was really confused sometimes how we got to certain points so quickly, or whatever situation they were in didn't always make sense for what time it was or what day it was. I do really enjoy the characters. That is definitely something that I would like to explore more, so I might check out the next book. We'll see by the end of this episode. But I did have some things that I wish had been a little more fleshed out, that would potentially help me enjoy things more in terms of like understanding certain things. But again, overall, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think the passage of that's a good one that I kind of flagged. The days felt really long, and I know they were kind of sleeping, and they're solving a mystery, so they're not like sleeping consistently. They're kind of running around ragged, but still, it felt really drawn out at times and really too fast at other points in the days that follow the initial murder. I kind of Rico, to your point about like the mystery unraveling in particular, because this is really marketed as like a mystery, like be gay, solve crime.
Yeah.
The mystery felt very Mystery Inc. Scooby Gang.
Yes.
Yes, very.
Very much like we know what's going on. Like we know who it is. We're pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple points where they kind of red herringed us, but it was very heavy handed. So you could tell you were being red herringed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like you were like, oh, they're trying to make this person look guilty, and I know that they're not. So that's definitely one of my like bigger critiques of the book. I still had fun reading it. Like I said, the characters were great. So I'm ready to get into the spoilers. So for those of you listening who have not read it yet, please turn back now or move on ahead and save yourself time if you decide you don't like this book. But we're going to talk about it. So what did we like? What did we like?
Well, like I mentioned, I think the characters and their relationships is by far the best part of the book. I think we had 3 very strong and different main characters, Mallory, Cornelia, and Diana. I definitely like their interplay the most.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were fun to read, and you both mentioned that you probably continue on this series potentially, and I would agree with that based solely on these characters. Oh, and Theodore as well. Theodore, the ghost, of course. Can't forget Theodore.
Like Theodore. You love a nerd. You love a nerd.
So all 4 of them. Yeah, I don't want to forget him. So all 4 of them I thought were really fun together, and I do want to read more about their adventures, purely for their adventures. Like the mystery part itself, just like calling it like Mr. Ink-esque was very appropriate. Like it's very simple.
Yeah.
And also, I guess, as much as I like the characters, I will say though, to the detriment of the story overall, they were conveniently stupid when it came to like the mystery.
Oh yes,
you know, like it was like the author made them conveniently stupid to get like to push the plot forward. And it's like, it's not that difficult. Like, I know who the bad guy
like
is.
It's hard?
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, exactly. I solved this mystery. What, like it's hard?
Rico, always being that girl.
But you know what I mean? Like I just felt like
it's not like other book talkers. Okay, he knew who was the murderer.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's dive into that sort of like heavy-handedness with the mystery. Like I feel like they were being fed clues a lot of the time. Like they kind of stumbled upon answers and were like, "Whoa, that's crazy," which I thought was very convenient of them. In particular, I think there's a lot of focus on like the night mayor in this town, who is essentially the mayor who works at night, and he's like the occult mayor, right?
Mm-hmm. I want to clarify, just because it sounds like you're saying nightmare. It's night mayor.
Like
night
town mayor.
Yes.
Yeah.
For anybody who hasn't read it, but yeah.
There's a lot of emphasis on him being corrupt and evil, and he's the one who's hired them. But he's acting very suspicious about it. Like he's not admitting that he's hired them. And they keep trying to like push it down your throat that that's who the murderer is at points. Like Cornelia, like that was, okay, one of my annoyances with the character development was Cornelia was so single-mindedly obsessed with the nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Van Duren. It was kind of annoying after a point. I was like, we get it. You hate him. I get it.
Well, they were all characters. I mean, as much as I did enjoy them, they were caricatures.
Yeah, they were yes.
They were caricatures. And Cornelia was very much like I don't like the authority, down to the authority. Like, I get it, yeah. But that was almost like her single note. All the characters. It's weird. Now that I'm talking about it, as much as I like the characters, they are all pretty one note. Like,
but you also have to remember, they're all like 20 years old.
Yeah, they're like 22, 23.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I believe they're 20 because they were 14 when they did their...
They are 20 because there's a point where later on it's all
when
three
they
of them
met Theodore, they were 14. And then they said this is 6 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. I think when I was younger, I was probably a little more one-noted as well. But I don't know. It's interesting that those can both exist. I could both really enjoy them, but also feel like they're one-sided characters or caricatures.
Because I think you're right. It was how they interacted with one another that they really shown, like their relationship, how Mallory has fibromyalgia, chronic illness. And so her friends are very supportive of her throughout all of that. And that's a big plot point. And like, I can't speak to whether that's like an authentic representation of chronic illness experience and like invisible disability experience, but it was really sweet to see how they all kind of non-verbally help one another. Like they just know each other so well. They're like, oh, I can tell you're in pain because like you're shifting in your seat, or you're kind of like flinching every so often. So here, take your pain meds. And then like same with Diana and like she's on a whole no dating, what is she called? Like no dating challenge for the next month. She must be single, which is kind of her one note. But the way that it plays out is really sweet with Mallory, where Mallory's like, you can flirt. It's okay. Like you're just that person, but like you did say you wanted to be single. And she's like, I know, but I just want to have fun. She's like, that's okay. You can have fun. And so like they play into that later. She's like, oh, my warden over here says I have to call you in 3 weeks. And like her potential date is like, okay, call me in 3 weeks.
What I really liked about Diana, though, is she is obviously known for her confidence, her self-esteem.
Yeah.
And that is a conversation that they briefly have at one point. But like that confidence, she is also trying to, give to Mallory and help her feel better about herself and her illness and her place within her friend group or within the world. I really liked that aspect of Diana and how it's not just her confidence. Like she's, sharing it to help other people.
Yeah. Trying to help Mallory empower herself to be her own advocate in the group, to be her own advocate in life. But I really also like that they never violated that boundary for Mallory. Like they knew her well enough to be like, we're not going to talk about your illness. Like we're not going to tell somebody like the reason we're helping you out so much is because of your diagnosis. Like that's for you to reveal if you want to talk about it, but we'll be here to defend you. There's like a moment where Cornelia's boyfriend, right, is like, why are you guys all helping Mallory out so much? Like, I'm a guest, but like, what's her excuse? And I hated that guy. Like, like when you read a book and you're like, I really am not sad that somebody was murdered.
Yeah.
It was that guy. Beckett.
Beckett, yeah.
He was a vampire. I wanted to love him. I wanted to love him so bad, but he was just a fucking tool to everybody. And yeah, I was not sad when he died. But anyways, he's being an asshole and he's like trying to get them to like reveal why it is that they're helping Mallory. And they're just like, fuck off, dude. Like leave our friend alone. And I was like, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. You don't have to like, people aren't entitled to knowing about what shit you have going on. Like we should all just treat each other with common decency. So yeah, I don't know. He deserved to die, but that's my hot take.
I don't know if I agree that he deserved to die. He was not a great character.
He was a really annoying character to read.
No, for sure.
How about that?
But, annoying people don't deserve to die.
I mean, in a fictional literary world, I think they can.
I think he could have had some kind of learning experience that maybe would put him in his place on certain things. I don't see that changing his whole personality.
You're right. I actually really did want to see Cornelia break up with him and rip his heart out. I wanted that to happen. That to me would have been much more satisfying.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, I agree, but I also was like, thank God he's off the page. Like I just didn't. His voice was annoying. Like the author did a really great job of making him annoying. He annoyed me from my Kindle. He was a fictional character who I was like, I'm so done hearing from you. Like Diana and me, I was like, Diana was me. Like Mallory I was like, good for you for just stoic and keeping the peace. I could not. He was so irritating.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character?
I was just about to ask that. I was just about to ask. I don't know. Do me last. Let me think about it.
Okay. Laura, do you have a favorite of the four?
Of the four?
Yeah, including Theodore. Can't forget our ghost boy.
I would say probably Theodore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rika, who is your favorite?
I would say Theodore or Cornelia.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, you?
It's so hard because I feel like at different points I liked all of them.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Overall, I think Cornelia. No, I don't know. Overall, I think it's between Cornelia and Diana. I really liked Mallory though. So it's a really close tie between the three of them. But actually, the secondary characters in this book were pretty good too. I really liked Felix.
Felix was good. Sully was good.
Sully was good, especially
Dr. Ray.
At the end. Dr. Ray and Sully. I think were more well written towards the end. I have a feeling they're going to be bigger pieces in the
Oh, for sure.
which is why they were like, I was like, oh, substantially like more built out than in our previous interactions with them. But yeah, I think that's something the author really shown was their secondary character development. Like, they were essential to the plot. They actually like were not just there to add flavor. They actually were helping move certain pieces along. So I like that. I don't know. Overall, I really liked it.
I think I like Cornelia. She's definitely one of my top ones because of the three, she seemed the most flawed to me.
Yeah.
And I definitely enjoy when an author is able to write a compelling, flawed character.
Yeah.
Mallory and Diana were just a little too, like, single note, like, one-sided for me. Like, they're... How do I put this in a sensitive way? Like, almost their characterization was almost their entire personality. Where I felt like Cornelia had some depth to her.
Well, and that is why I think Mallory's one of my favorites, because that was a flaw for her. She had reduced herself to a singularity. She had reduced herself to like, my disability has changed everything about my life. And she like hadn't really figured out how to balance her multitudes. Like, Cornelia was like, I contain multitudes. And I think Mallory was, and like rightfully so, was dealing with her illness. And so like at times she could only focus on the one thing. But I think that's how her growth was shown throughout the book, that as she like gained confidence and like her friendships developed and like she got out of her shell that of the last few years of being isolated because of her illness, like we saw some more multitudes there. And that's why I'm like, I want to keep reading to see how she like develops herself in like being her best advocate, but also like having a support system. Her magic is definitely a big part of that. Like finding like what did she call it? Like the, not linear thinking, not lateral thinking. Was it lateral thinking?
Yeah, lateral.
I think it was lateral. Yeah.
Lateral thinking of like, I think she like unlocked that more throughout the story, especially in like the climax of, you know, the big bad in the mystery. So I don't know. It was really interesting. I think that's how like I saw her growth the most, is because she went from this sort of like singular, like isolated character into like an integral part of the town, of the group, had kind of found her, like had kind of broken out of her people-pleasing peacekeeper sort of role. It was cool. It was cool to watch that happen.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. That's definitely a good take on it that is different than mine. And I think does change my view on it, because I did find Mallory to be very much defined by her disability.
Yeah, I think her own internalized ableism.
But I took it more as like just really lazy writing. That the author didn't know how to make this character anything beyond the fibromyalgia. Everything went back to that. Everything was connected to that. All her interaction with the other characters were based on the fibromyalgia. And I will just preface, I do not have fibromyalgia. I do not suffer from this. My experience with it is that I've dated two people with it, coincidentally.
Mind blowing.
And so I saw their struggles with it day to day, you know, and there's good days and there's bad days, and everybody suffers differently, of course. And I don't know if this author, I mean, we should have looked into, I don't know if this is a personal experience that they suffer from and they wrote into the book. So I don't know any of that. But like when I was reading Mallory, it seemed very much like that was the only thing that made them interesting. And I wanted more for them. But I guess you saying it that maybe that was deliberate, that was the that was the character's perception of themselves, that's all they were, is like, okay, I could get on board with that, and I can, you know, give it another book to see if that changes. Yeah. So that was really frustrating, you know, to read, and I felt like it interrupted the flow of the story for me. And maybe I'm being too harsh with this, but I felt like maybe a better author would be able to balance the severity of the disability, but also keep the flow going of the story as a whole.
I think that overall speaks to some of the pacing struggles that we all had, where like sometimes it felt like we were moving really fast, and other times it was like this one day was 3 chapters or however many chapters. So yeah, I agree with I do agree with some of your perception that like it was all consuming for a really long time. But I do think it was intentional, that that was how the character perceived herself. And like that's how Mallory kind of like spoke about herself. She was like, I can't go to university because of fibromyalgia. Like I'm so tired, and I have good days and bad days, but like like doing these things suck energy out of me, and I'm worried about school. And all of those are very valid concerns, especially with fibromyalgia. But I also am like, there is a world out there. There are people out there, and there are like, we are working as a society, and I'm not saying everybody is, but like to be more accommodating and equitable in like structures. Like I see some really cool TikToks about people like having scooters, like e-scooters or other types of scooters, I'm sure, like push scooters, depending on like your physical ableness, but like to help them to get from class. And I'm like, that's so great. Like micromobility is such a tool for people who have like these invisible disabilities. So personally for me, my brain was all up in the like real world applications of like, oof, I want to talk to Mallory. I want to talk to Mallory about like what's worked, what hasn't worked. Like, I don't know. I get very into that because that's like my job outside of the podcast is transportation equity. So I'm like, let's talk about it, Mallory. Like her not having a car, I was like, oof, I could talk to you about like how we can get you around so you feel empowered, to go about your life when you do have good days. So I think but that was something that I was like, not everyone gets that support. So for me, I was like, that felt very grounded in reality, that a lot of people with disabilities, especially invisible disabilities, have either their own internalized ableism or like work in a world that is very ableist or live in a world that is very ableist. I'm sure the magical community is very ableist because they're like, anything that's a problem we can solve with magic. And if it can't, and she even kind of mentions that at the beginning of the book, she's like, there's no cure to my disease, magical, apparent, or occultist. And I was like, oh, that's so limiting for yourself. Of course, like she would have these sort of like internalized dialogues around like not being able to do things, not being able to go to school, never being able to achieve her dreams in a way that she thought was possible, but like stopping herself there from thinking that sort of lateral thinking that later on she like unlocks as she is with her friends. And she talks with Diana about like, size inclusivity. Like Diana is larger and, talks about like living in a world for like straight sized, slimmer people. So that was just super interesting to me, the growth. But I agree, I was putting a lot into the story with my own knowledge and context that wasn't there for other people. So I totally see why you were like, oh, I didn't see it that way before because you don't have that context. And so that's like, that reminds me to like come out of my head and be like, oh yeah, that wasn't in the book. That was in my brain. But so.
Yeah.
I'll try to be brief. I do not have fibromyalgia, but I did deal with a form of chronic fatigue over the last few years. I self-diagnose it as long COVID, which is still very not understood. But I had chronic fatigue since 2021. So in my mind, reading from Mallory's perspective, yes, she did bring up a lot what she was feeling and what she needed to do and how she felt. It sounded normal to me because as I was dealing with my fatigue, that's something that I was constantly thinking about. Like, I need to go and do this thing, but do I have enough in my battery to do this? No? Okay, I need to go take a nap. But if I take a nap, it's going to be a 3-4 hour nap. So can I make this work in my day? Or, it's constantly having to think and plan ahead how to handle certain things, how to do certain things, because you just don't know if your body is going to last.
Yeah.
And so, again, I don't have fibromyalgia, so I can't necessarily fully connect to what Mallory was feeling, but I still it still resonated with me, the struggles that she was dealing with.
Yeah, the mental load of those calculations
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, I've talked pretty openly on the podcast of like my vision issues, and that's something I did. So this is going to be a long story, and please feel free to cut it, Rico. But back in the day, I like went to a relatively well-off school. So if you were like special needs, right, is what they called it at the time, like it was very much stigmatized. So like being high performing, I was told like nothing was wrong with me because I was a good student. I was a fast reader. And I had a friend though whose parents were lawyers and were very good at like learning the system. And she had really bad eyesight. And so she would get all the tests blown up and all the books, large sized font textbooks and like novels for English class. And I remember being like, oh, like this is cool, but I don't need that. Like, again, like internalized ableism of like, well, my eyesight's not as bad as yours. So I wouldn't qualify for that. And I never really like looked at her stuff or tried it. And back then it was it was not very good. Like she was getting stuff printed wonky and like, I was like, I don't want that. Like I know the tests as they are now. I don't necessarily want that. But I don't think I ever considered it for myself. Turns out we are like half a diopter apart in vision, which is not a huge difference. So now, like, I'm a huge advocate for Kindles. I'm like, you can adjust the font size and the brightness and the high contrast, so higher visibility and things like that have just changed my life. And like my font size, people make fun of me all the time and it's annoying, but like whatever. They make fun of me for my text on my phone because the font is so large.
It's gigantic.
They can read it from far away. And I'm like, that's so great. Ha ha ha. I can't read for shit unless it's this size. Like my phone would be right in front of my face. So fuck off. So like there are things you think about as like a person with a disability, whatever that is, right? To whatever extent, invisible, visible, that I think is really important in this book that we're having this conversation and talking about it. Like, I don't know. I was like, ultimately just to bring it back around is like, I'm really grateful for this author and this book for bringing up these topics and like we're able to have these conversations and just like, I don't know, think about things from a different perspective, put ourselves in each other's shoes and in Mallory's shoes. And because I have known people with fibromyalgia, but I don't think I've like read an experience like this before. Yeah. And again, I don't know what the author's experience with it is. And so like, you know, maybe grain of salt in that this is still like a fictionalized novel, but it was really cool to step into somebody's shoes and really like see an intimate look at what this would be like day to day. So.
Not to lecture you, Jason.
No, I was like, not to criticize Rico for being able-bodied and this male and, you know, straight.
Look, if I wanted to be really mean, I would have. I have a great story about my vision being so good, but I'm not going to share that. I'm not going to do that to you. Okay.
Oh, Rico. Get out of here.
I'll tell you after the recording.
Oh my God.
No, again, I do want to clarify. Like, I don't suffer from this. My experience is entirely from the two people that I dated who did have this, and so I saw them going through it on a day-to-day basis, and some days were worse, and some days were easier, and so I couldn't help but compare my experience of seeing them go through it with experiencing Mallory's, and so I was like, well, these two people who I dated, it was just a thing they had, and that was it. Whereas Mallory's like, that was all she had was this.
Yeah. I appreciate you calling that out because I felt that way too a little bit where I was like, I feel like we're limiting ourselves, Mallory, not trying to tell you to like get over it and move on, which I don't think you're saying either.
No, not at all.
I know you're not. I don't think any of us are saying that, but just coming from a perspective of, I think now being older, because I think I would have felt that way when I was 20. And I think I did. Like, I don't think I really discovered larger font size until I was like 22 out of college.
Because when you're that age, you feel if there's anything that can limit you, it limits everything.
Yes. You feel very defined by your ability to adhere to a norm, an expectation. Nobody, especially at 20. I mean, the UK is a little different because they already graduated college by 20, whereas here we graduate like 21, 22.
Yeah.
So even those couple of years closer to developing your frontal lobe make a huge difference. I definitely felt very different from 20 to 22. But still, like, I think, yeah, there was this sort of like, okay, I'm the one stuck in my hometown because of this illness. Like, it's a very debilitating place mentally to feel limited and to feel that way, especially at that age. So yeah, I really empathize with that. But I think we have the experience of our age to be like, okay, you need to talk to a better doctor. You need to like your doctor is not giving you the tools that you should have to manage and like accommodate yourself, to be your own advocate, which is why I think we all liked Diana, it sounds like, because she was like, bullshit, don't talk to yourself that way. Like there are things we can do to like help make you comfortable, or like the binding spell that Cornelia gives her for like, whenever I'm not around, like, here's this binding spell that you can use and I'm happy to charge it at any point. And it's like, oh, like that's like, we all need support systems like that in our lives for whatever we have going on. So yeah, I think the author did a good job of balancing all of that and making us think, but also being like, Mallory, I hope you with a little bit of age and some more Diana, that we figure out a way to like make the world work for you and not you making yourself fit into the world, if that makes sense.
I'm looking forward to seeing how she grows from this experience in the second book.
Yeah, I'm curious if we have a time jump at all or anything like that. Like, I honestly haven't. I'm gonna read the book regardless because I'm very curious about these characters. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where this all develops. But should we talk a little bit more about this mystery that is central to this mystery book? I want to hear from Mr. Mystery with his thoughts. The Thot with the Thoughts. Jason Rico himself. Rico. You haven't said enough about the mystery.
There's not a lot to say. It was that simple. It was so obvious that the culprit was Jacob.
Why was it obvious to you?
Okay, well, hold on. Before I jump to that, no.
Oh, okay, my bad.
The first rule of a murder mystery is the first suspect that you encounter is definitely not it. And so I felt like everybody that we were being shown was clearly not it because we were being shown that this person was a suspect. And the leaps that they were going to try to figure out that they were suspects, they seemed like a little much or something we need to go off of. And because they were suspecting like almost everybody, the one person they didn't suspect was clearly him. Like,
yep.
It's the one person you're not mentioning that is completely wrapped up in this, has been there since the first moment.
Keep showing up.
Is constantly there. Like, the author was going out of their way to show us that it wasn't Jacob. We don't suspect Jacob. Jacob's fine. Jacob's super friendly.
It was so obvious.
Obvious.
Jacob was at every crime scene. Jacob was even dropping hints like, oh, do you want my DNA? Ha, ha, ha. And they're like, no, that's fine. I was like, you guys are so stupid. Why wouldn't you just take somebody's, like, we're collecting data here. You guys are testing hypothesis. Like, all of this science is very new. Why wouldn't you just take somebody's DNA to rule them out?
You know what mostly annoyed me was in the end, during his lovely monologue, he mentions one of his notes or poems or whatever, and Mallory, like, it just makes sense that the first letter of every fourth word was circled. I was like, why the fuck didn't you know that was a clue? If they were circled, why did you not think, like, that would be the first thing that I look at? I wouldn't even finish reading it.
The clues that Jacob
some detectives
explained later on, like, I was giving you clues, and here was this poem, and here was this cipher, and here was this, and it was so obvious, and like, it clearly was not obvious.
No, they weren't.
It was so frustrating to read, because on the one hand, I think the author was trying to make this guy purposely out to be like an incompetent antagonist.
Yeah.
But as a reader, like I said, like, the fun of a mystery novel is when you get to the end and you figure it all out. They tell you, and like, oh, it was there all along. And there's something just so satisfying about that. That like Agatha Christie does super well. Anthony Horowitz does super well. You know, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle does super well with Sherlock Holmes. Mm-hmm. They lay it all out and you see all the steps that got you to here. Mm-hmm. This book was so fucking frustrating at the end.
Well, they didn't even get it right. Their theory wasn't even right.
No, but I was saying when he explains everything and he lays everything out, like no one's gonna get that. Like no one understands that. Like I don't know. I was debating. This was about a 4-star book up until the very end.
I agree.
And then the very end is like, oh, I'm tanking this. I don't know if I could give it above a 3, honestly.
I think 3 is fair.
But we're not done discussing. So that's not my official final rating.
Oh,
I'm just giving you my thought process.
Will the jury strike that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was. I get what you're saying, but I also thought it was funny how incompetent and like how his clues didn't make any sense. But Hugh just thought he was just so smart. And like he says, oh, I figured it. I just gotta leave all of these clues for you, and I figure if you figure it out, then that's the rule of 3 or whatever. Then it's not meant for me. Like I'm intentionally doing this. I'm trying to help you, and he just thought he was so good at this, and I thought that was also just kind of funny. And it just kind of made me think when going back to like Scooby-Doo mysteries, how these villains, they think they're so smart.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids, for sure. Mm-hmm. I was like waiting for him to say that.
Yeah.
But also, I also had the same thinking. I was like, it's Jacob. It's definitely got to be Jacob.
Yeah. I just kept doubting myself because I was like, maybe it's not because it's everywhere. Like I just was like, this is where I was like, why did you test his DNA or his magic and in the like mass spectrometer? Or like there were just so many questions of like, how are we not looking at him more? Mm-hmm. It seemed so obvious. And then I was like, well, then maybe it's not going to be him. And I was like, no, but then it's so obvious. Maybe it is him. And that's going to be the plot point. But I just didn't understand. Like they weren't very good detectives. Like I think Mallory was really good at like the forensic side, but none of them were very good at the like figuring out the motive or the how it was done.
I'm with you. Like, if it had not been Jacob and the author did a good job of explaining it was actually this person and the clues really were there all along, Jacob was a big misdirect, I would have been so happy. I would have been so happy with that. But honestly, like, the book, like, it was offensive to readers almost. Like, it offended my intelligence. Like,
yeah.
Because even when towards the end, when they figure out that it is Jacob, there's a whole chapter where like, oh, we can't say his name because then he'll know we're talking about him. And so like it was like the author even then trying to be like, I'm not telling you who it is. It's a secret. It's like, Jacob. It's fucking Jacob. Stop insulting me. Just say Jacob.
Yeah, like I was waiting. Honestly, I was like, okay, maybe it is going to be Ben or Beckett or Theodore, who all ended up being victims. Like I knew we were highlighting them for some reason at various points in the story. I was like, maybe him, maybe him, maybe him. And again, it was like, okay, either Jacob's going to be the next victim or the murderer. That's kind of where I was going in my mind. Because each time I was like, maybe this person, because they're being so obviously highlighted, it could be them. And it was not. So, yeah. And can we talk about that monologue? Can we talk about the big reveal? Because that was some of the worst, like, mystery big bad monologuing I've ever read. Yeah. First of all, Jacob just didn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time. Oh, yeah.
I still had questions.
I have so many questions that I couldn't even formulate them because I was, like, half paying it. I was like, what does this, which clue, which poem? I'm confused again. Like there was not really any distinguishing clue or poem that I could think of throughout this book. And I think that's kind of one of the things is the mystery felt very secondary to the actual like characters and the town and this dynamic that the author was playing out. So the monologue didn't make a lot of sense in terms of like, oh, I left you this clue and I put this riddle. And then if you rearranged everything in this order, it would have told you where to find me or something like that. Didn't make a lot of sense. The whole I only need 2 of you, but didn't Jacob have like 3 more people to kill because there'd only been, well, maybe there had been 5 at
he
that
had
point.
them.
So
He said that he was going to still kill all 3 of them, even though he only technically needed
yes,
2.
it was, yeah.
Because he didn't know if him taking his father's heart out was going to mess
like
anything
ruin
up.
it. Yeah. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
It didn't make sense because he goes out of his way to say he planned everything. Like, purposely.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the very end, I don't know if this one's going to count. I feel like with magic, you need to get it perfectly exact.
Yeah.
You would know not to rip a guy's heart out or,
Yeah. Also, like, Theodore was a ghost. So I feel like, why would they care about the heart missing on your father?
True.
If Theodore literally didn't have a body at the time. If we're just talking about souls, then who cares about the body? Like, there was a lot of like logical things that just didn't make sense.
So many things that you needed to just not think about. Like the suspension of disbelief that was necessary for this book to make sense was a lot. Even like when Mallory kills one of Cornelia's beetles, and like you find out Cornelia knew the whole time, and you're like, why didn't you bring it up? Like, why didn't nobody say anything? And like, I don't. This wasn't even that big of a plot point.
What
but
confused me
built up.
with that was that the chapter where Mallory does it makes it sound like she was in like a weird trance.
Yes, I thought maybe it wasn't real.
Yeah, I was like, maybe somebody's controlling her or something, and that's why that happened. But then they're just like, yeah, I did it. Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like, fine, that's fine that they have that kind of great friendship that Cornelia was able to forgive her so quickly. But just in general, going from actually killing the bug to talking about it just felt weird. I expected there to be something else behind it. And I don't know, maybe there is. Maybe there's something about it in the next book.
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was built up so much and then it was very easily resolved with like, I knew. Can't believe you thought that I would like never forgive you for that. And then that was it. And I was like, okay, so what was the point of this conflict?
No, this book was just a series of conveniences.
Yes.
Just like,
everything was very convenient.
Like earlier when I said that the characters were like purposely stupid, like Mallory's into forensic science. Like she figures out how to turn correct me if I'm wrong, a DNA sequencer, but how to make it work for magic, how to identify different types of magic. Like, she is clearly very intelligent. So how the fuck do you not know it's Jacob? How do you not even suspect him? Rule 101 of trying to solve a murder mystery is, who are all the people who were just here that are connected, that are around? It doesn't matter who it is. Let's rule them out. No one suspected Jacob? Not even the actual detective, Sully? She didn't even suspect Jacob?
Well, Sully even admitted like she was not even on the right path.
But even then, like every character in this book was stupid.
I know. It was like, okay, so you're like, again, this felt like the Mystery Inc. of like, okay, so you're going to let a bunch of kids solve it? Mm-hmm. Even though you have decades of experience. Like, and here's the thing. Here's the thing that really bothered me.
Lay it on me.
Okay. Privilege. Let's talk about privilege.
Let's talk about it.
They felt very entitled to just never doing anything for 6 years, never solving a murder, never actually working towards a detective agency. Like, except for Mallory was founded in her like abilities to be a forensic scientist. I think she did her part very well, but nobody else brought really anything to the table from a mystery solving, like, detective perspective. Like, I think they all had skills that helped them, but everything was conveniently solved for them in the end. Like, I don't think they didn't put anything together, right? Like, some pieces. I'm generalizing here. But ultimately it was this like, oh yeah, we wanted to be detectives when we were 14. So we get to be detectives now. And we're just going to start an agency. And it's sort of that like the audacity of privilege to just be like, I wanted it, so I did it. And there's not really any backup to it other than Mallory being the like exception to her specific skill she had studied for and had done the work for it and had just been sort of sidetracked by her illness and her own like that development in her life.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else, like, yeah, Cornelia went and got like her bug degree. So she was really good at like, but her one thing was, I have a beetle that can detect magic.
Oh, not the one thing. She also money.
Money.
Okay, sorry.
That's what she brought to the trio. Sorry. She had money.
She had her checkbook. You're right. You're absolutely right. So she was able to like buy the tools, but Cornelia wasn't really solving the mystery.
No.
And like, love Diana, she did the diorama, but she just was like, I rebuilt the crime scene. There wasn't really a lot of insight into what was happening at that crime scene.
She was really good at lying, though. She was able to get information.
I think she just had Riz and flavor.
Diana's superpower was audacity.
Yeah, Diana's superpower was, I want it, I got it.
That's all she was. She just
bought it.
An abundance of confidence.
Yeah.
And she'll just Riz her way out of everything. Like just the...
You would say caucasity, except that she is not white.
She's not white.
So, but I agree. She had that like pretty privilege Riz. I'm sure she sounded hot. At least everyone acted like she was really hot. So good for her.
Also, sorry, why is she wearing heels to the last?
They had knives in them, Rico.
She's known for her fashion.
She's known for her fashion.
Okay, but
fashion, Rico.
All it was fucking giving was Jurassic World, where people were getting on fucking Bryce Dallas Howard's character for running away from the dinosaurs in heels.
Didn't have knives.
We don't know she had knives until the very end, but that was dumb. Like I have my heels. Like until that reveal, I was like, this is stupid. Why is she in fucking heels?
I knew it was gonna have a purpose as soon as it was on the page.
She said she was gonna stab the bad guys with her heel.
With her heel.
But
you knew it was gonna come in handy at that point.
Yeah. Listen.
Sorry, I didn't know she had spy gear.
She has a passion for fashion. I don't know what to tell you.
Why? What fashion show requires knives in your heels?
Also, Mr. Accessorizer over there, get out of here. Criticizing a fellow accessorizer. I feel like you and Diana were like made for each other, just FYI.
I kind of had a little crush, I'm not gonna lie.
I knew it. I was like, she is so Rico's type. That's so funny. Yeah. But she didn't, unfortunately, you're the wrong.
Yeah, it's fine. Story of my life.
Sorry.
Sorry. Poor Rico.
It's so hard being cishet.
His perfect vision.
It's so hard.
His hetero life.
It's so hard.
That girl over there.
It's so hard.
Oh my God. But yeah, I just, again, very convenient that they should like stumble upon a job 6 years later with no training other than Mallory for what they were about to undertake. It was just all very convenient. Yeah. And even in the end, they got all the credit for solving and fixing getting the murderer in jail or dead, I guess, and saving the town. And they got more jobs that looks like they solved and got money. And I was like, I was happy for Mallory. I wasn't necessarily like the undetectable agency. Yay. I was very confused, but.
I was happy when we found out that Jacob's the one that hired them and that it was like not an actual job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sure. Like, oh, good. They had no business being hired to begin with. But then at the end, they get, like you said, they get all the credit for solving this. They didn't solve anything. They're good at getting out of a bind.
Yeah. Mallory certainly invented magic DNA sequencing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Happy for her. Everything else was convenient at best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
Laura?
No, I was just going to say the one thing that I kept having questions about in general was the world building. Because they say if, people who don't have magic, they're called apparent. Mm-hmm. People who do are occultists. Occults. And then they would say like, I'm half, my father was a parent and my mother was a witch or whatever. And so that's obviously where we get the magical DNA thing. But then they're also saying like, the nightmare is a magic person. And then like, this is a magic town. And then they've got neighboring other towns and saying like, they both work together, but also they kind of don't. And I just had a lot of questions relating to what this world looks like.
The nightmare in particular, I was confused. Like, so is there a day mayor?
I don't know.
I felt like this author really just wanted to write Harry Potter. Like there was or like
this author wanted to write Scooby-Doo fan fiction with gay
Scooby-Doo Harry Potter, because we have the Muggles and we have the magical world, and then we have you have like them living together in like an urban fantasy kind of thing, and then even I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be making this up, but the symbol of the Turnian, what they call the trio, it was like it had the representation of like the blade and also the rings. I'm like, this is sounding very Deathly Hallows.
It did kind of sound Deathly Hallows.
Like all we need is a triangle, and then we have all the three shapes. Like, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to write a more inclusive Harry Potter, which I'm all for. But yeah, to your point, Laura, I have. First of all, I didn't know this was contemporary. I don't know how I missed that when we just off of the synopsis before I actually started.
There were cell phones.
No, I mean like in the synopsis, like before we actually started reading the book. Does the synopsis mention cell phones? Does it mention any of that? No. Like I thought this world took place. Maybe it's because as an American, I just equate like UK magic with like maybe like Victorian, early 20th century for some reason.
I mean, they said cat costume, which to me feels very modern, if that makes sense.
Well, an urban fantasy is listed on Goodreads as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
but
6.
That's just to take place in an urban environment, nothing to do with contemporary.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so I thought this story was going to take place before modern technology, modern society, and then when it was like, oh, we have cell phones, and then we have, speaking of fucking modern, I think we talked about this, Laura, maybe with Psychology of Time Travel. No, I forgot what book. We talked about Unaliving. This book had Unaliving.
It was the last AD book.
One of my points.
Yes. So this book also had Unaliving in it.
One use.
When did it say that?
Towards the end, I highlighted it.
It's after Diana saves Mallory and Cornelia from the cage. When she hits him over the head and she's like, I knew you two would try to unalive yourselves to save me and save the town.
Alive.
So which is like it comes out of TikTok, right? So does this world have TikTok?
Yes, obviously.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, so that bothered me too, because I was like, to Emma's point, there was another word you could have used that would have worked just as well. Sacrificed yourselves.
Yeah.
Killed each other. Murdered each other. We've said kill and murder a million times. Why was it unalive yourselves? It was really, it like took me out. I was like, oh man, they're Gen Z. Get out of here.
Yeah, I don't know. It just opens up more questions of like, why isn't there more
I would have loved to
modern
see more world building around how technology integrates with the magic. Like, does TikTok still look the same? Right? If they're using unaliving, I can assume TikTok's in the world. So like, are there filters, or is that just fairy magic? Like, did the fairies invent filters on TikTok?
Are they not filters? Are they glamours?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Full glamours, yeah.
Is it fairy magic, or is it like an actual tech filter? Like fairies found a way to create, like lots of questions that I would love the answer to.
Yeah.
I don't think that it was missing enough information for me to
no, it didn't bother me
for it to distract me, but there were just little things here and there that I'm like, oh wait, what does this mean?
It felt very like rushed. It was
I just have questions about it, so I'm hoping in the second book maybe I'll get some more information.
Again, it was just convenient. The author chose what was convenient for the story they wanted to tell.
Yes.
And didn't give it any deeper thought than that.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes that's okay, though.
And that's okay.
On what
not every book needs to be deep.
There's nothing wrong with that. No. And I still enjoyed the book with all of these like thoughts that we've had around it, thanks to our resident Thot, that it didn't bother me. And I enjoyed it, and I had a fun ride. But are we ready to rate the book?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't choose me first, though.
I was like, you guys can't see, but he like stepped away from his mic, is reclining, has a look on his face.
He's thinking about it.
Give us a Goodreads rating first. Let me think about it.
Well, obviously.
For more seconds.
All right. So Goodreads is 3.53 stars, 1,000 ratings. I can start with mine. I feel like Goodreads, that's pretty on the nose for me. I'd say I lean closer to a 3, especially after having talked about it more, I think I actually enjoyed the book more. But yeah, there's just enough of that. The mystery wasn't very good. And if you're going to sell a book as a mystery novel, I need the mystery to deliver. So I think that's where I'm like a 3, a solid 3, because I still thoroughly enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
And I want to read the sequel to figure out the characters. But I feel like I take off half a point because your main genre was not well executed. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. Laura?
I'm kind of on the same page. 3.5.
It was the giggle for me.
I would say 3.5. I'm not sure because obviously, Goodreads does not allow you to do half stars. So I'm still not sure if I would round up or down. Because yes, it didn't really do the mystery thing very well, but I also still really enjoyed it overall, and it is enough for me to keep reading it. So I'm hoping the second book will fix some of our concerns and complaints. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't rate a book accurately until I read a series. Sometimes all of them together make a really good story. So let's just say 3.5 right now.
That's fair. Rico.
Well, we all know I love to be a contrarian, so I'm going to give it 3.25 stars.
Okay.
Because, 3 is...
The only reason you're allowed to do 0.25 is because I know you have a rating system.
I do have
so you will justify this with science. So I'll give it to you.
A 3 for me is like, it was a book. I didn't really particularly like it or dislike it. It was just a story. I got through it and it's fine. 4 is I did like it. I tend to average out my ratings around 3.5 because I feel like most books are like, they're enjoyable and that's enough. This book, I don't think was bad enough to be a 3. I don't think it was like middling enough to be a 3. But it's not quite 3.54. So 3.25, just over the hump. Just enough to be like, I did enjoy this. I do want to read more, I think. But a 3.25, I think, feels good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I would recommend this book to people. I actually did recommend it to somebody before I got to the end. So I think I would not recommend it to her because she's a huge mystery fan, more so than fantasy. Like actually the fantasy, she's like, kind of turned off by the fantasy element. And I was like, oh, well, the mystery is really fun. I probably wouldn't give it to her now. But anyone else, I think if you like magic, you like urban fantasy, you're queer or appreciate queer stories, disability, visibility, I would definitely recommend this book to you. I think it was a fun time. The characters are great. I think it had a lot of thought-provoking conversations between us, which I think to me is like well worth the price of admission. Like you said, I think we had a lot I think we could have kept going.
Yeah.
So we obviously had a lot to talk about, which is why I was like, I want to give it 3.5. But that, again, for me, it's like 3.5 is like, I really liked this book. It may not be for everybody, but it was really good. The 3 is because the mystery. I really can't recommend this to mystery lovers, and that's really sad. Because I love mysteries. You love mysteries, Rico. You're up there higher than me on the love for mysteries. So, but ultimately, I really like the characters. I had fun. I will recommend this to people. Who knows? I might change it to a 3.5. I think I would still round down just for that expectation on Goodreads. But yeah, I don't know. Are you guys going to recommend it to anybody?
I actually already did as well. After I finished reading it, I called up one of the people who had fibromyalgia. I called up Megan, one of her guest hosts, to kind of get her thoughts on like my feelings about Mallory and the fibromyalgia representation. Because I want to talk it out with her. Like I said, this isn't something I suffer from.
Let's do an impromptu in-person book club when she reads it. I'd love to hear.
I told her. I was like, you know what? This would have been a great episode for you to guest on.
Yeah, I always love
So,
hearing from people's like own experiences.
Yeah. But I told her, like, specifically for the representation of the fibromyalgia, I really want you to read it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on, like, the character, the representation, but also she loves, not mystery. She loves, like, fantasy books. She loves witchy things too.
Yeah, and she loves Buffy.
She loves Buffy.
Yeah.
So
this is so up her alley. I'm recommending it to Z, another guest host of ours, for similar reasons. Yeah. So I'm like, I am recommending this
queer.
book.
So like it's definitely up Megan's alley as well. So
yeah. Well, we finished reading this book. We obviously are reading other things. Maybe not Rico. I don't know. Rico, what's up on your plate? You said the Paralympics are coming. So
the Paralympics are coming. I'll be watching that, but I think I'm going to try to balance my life a little better. Next for me is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I'm reading that for my works book club. It is super short, though. I'm probably going to get that done in a day. So right after that, I'm going to be reading Sunderworld Volume 1, The Extraordinary Disappointments of Leopold Berry by Ransom Riggs. This is the first in a new fantasy series by the same author of Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children. A very popular book series that got turned into a okay movie.
I was going to say a less than popular film.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. But thanks to Penguin Teen for sending us some copies of that. They were very nice to gift us each a copy.
I know. I'm like, I need to get that book from you, actually.
Yeah, I have your copy sitting right here. So I'll hand that to you. But yeah.
Gatekeeping, guys. That's Rico. Using his privilege for all the wrong reasons.
What's the point of being privileged if you don't abuse it,
Okay, he really is being that girl. Ugh, Laura, what are you reading next?
So I have not decided yet between Sunderworld also or Valley by Stacey McEwen. I think I've mentioned some of her other books previously, but Valley is the third book in the Glacian trilogy. There's been a lot that's happened in the last two books, so I don't necessarily want to spoil it for people who are working their way through it, but the third book is basically Dawson, the main character, is trying to lead her people to a safe home. So I've been patiently waiting for this book. So I'm very excited for Valley and Ransom Riggs Sunderworld. So I still don't know which one to read next.
It's never a bad thing to have multiple books that we're excited about. It just becomes a problem when you have a TBR of like, let's say 2 years long. I don't know who that could be. That's probably a very unique problem, but not Rico hating me for hosting. This is why I don't host very often, guys.
Listen, y'all give me shit for the TBR, but it helps me get through books, okay? It helps me get through them very quickly.
Sure. It doesn't stop you from buying more books and making it longer, though. That's the problem. But he's not on the hot seat tonight, y'all. That was Jacob. He's actually not our what is it? Our defendant tonight. That is Jacob and Courtney Smyth. Okay, well, my TBR is significantly smaller. Sunderworld, if Rico will give me the book. But depending on when I see him, I'm going to try to get the next book in this series, The Undead Complex by Courtney Smyth. And it's currently on NetGalley, so I'm going to try to get it. If not, it comes out in like a few weeks or a month at this point. So yeah, that should be exciting. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm just kind of I already mentioned the books I'm currently reading. I'm like in between 3 books. So I will get to this when I get to it. But yeah, so thank you guys for joining me and talking about this very thought-provoking book that I think we all generally had positive experiences with.
Yeah.
For our listeners back home. So thank you guys all for listening for the episode. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. You can share them with us on social media at Shit We've Read, Instagram, TikTok. I don't think we check Facebook or Twitter, so don't find us there. And Discord, we have our Discord server. Find the link in our bio on Instagram and TikTok. And our next episode will be an After Dark episode which I know most of y'all who listen to these episodes are listening to After Dark because we are all freaks and geeks here. Cosmic Kiss by Cleo Evans, she, they, will be our next episode. I'm very excited. This is a sci-fi romance novel. This author has several books out, but this is the first in their Galactic Gems series. This is about, wow, there's a lot. I'm just going to read this. Alien romance has the following. I'm looking at Goodreads, y'all. Aliens that worship their woman, tentacles, magic, and other things, winky face. Literally types out a winky face, semicolon, close parentheses. Fated mates, love, and fast bird. Love triangle to a polyamorous relationship. Love that. Swoony romance and delicious spice. Was this Emma's pick?
This is Laura's pick.
Mine.
Laura's pick. Okay, I thought so. What was Emma's? Oh, we just did it. The fated mate. I deleted it from my brain. I hated that. I mean, it was a great experiment. Thank you, Emma. Love you, but never again. Thank you. I'm actually more excited for this one. So far, the ones I've read that Laura's recommended, I've been surprisingly delighted to read. So this one sounds really great. Easier to suspend belief on science when there's lots of sex and weird things going on. You just are along for the ride. So yeah, excited for all of y'all to join us for that next month. And yeah, we'll see you soon for the next episode of Shit We've Read. Bye.
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 Shit We've Read is hosted by Laura Benson, Jason Rico, and Bello Romero, with music by Joshua Chilton and editing by Jason Rico.
To join the discussion on this and all other books we've read, find us at Shit We've Read on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
For more information about us or to request transcripts, please visit shitwe'veread.com.
This podcast is part of the Bilo Network. Visit bilonetwork.com for more great geeky podcasts.
Thanks so much for listening.